Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
Quite a week for the Chicago Bears. We're still buzzing about what happened at Soldier Field on Saturday night, one of the most memorable games that Tom and I have ever been a part of. And a lot of it, yes, was the comeback, and the most imaginable comeback you can possibly think of. Heaven sent, as Dan Pompei, our good friend from The Athletic, wrote, that patch the Bears are wearing on their heart, the Virginia Hallis McCaskey patch. It maybe is heaven sent, but the people in the building, Soldier Field, was rocking like never before. We're going to talk all about that in our second podcast of the week to talk about. This episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of Chicago Bears. And we have a special guest, Joe Mantegna, the Hollywood actor, born and bred in Chicago, all about Chicago, will join us as well. But, Tom, I can't get that game out of my head. I know we said in Monday's podcast you got to hit the reset button and go, but I'm still thriving off of what we experienced and now just soaking it in because we're in it. You have to do other things. We're on to the next game and going to post-game interviews and interviewing Ben Johnson. I just hope we remember that one for a long time and what it meant for the next chapter in Bears history.
Listen, I remember Dick Butkus saying on the broadcast of the Bears-Rams game when Wilbur Marshall picked up the fumble and started running for a touchdown, he says, you couldn't write a better movie script than what's happening right now. They got snow falling. The crowd is going berserk. Wilbur Marshall is heading to the end zone. He's being escorted in by Fridge. That's something I'll never forget. I'll never forget the words of Dick Butkus. And then when you think all week, when I've had people that have messaged me saying, if you wrote a script about this team, people wouldn't believe it. We've had on-site visual, confirmation of everything that's taken place. And I believe it because I have such great faith in Ben Johnson and the message that he's bringing into the locker room. So it's unbelievable, but, we've seen it.
Yeah, there is a very cinematic angle to this. It just feels like that. It is a made-for-silver screen stuff. It really is. You're down 25 points. And you come back and win that football game. And now you're setting up to take on, arguably the most explosive offense in the NFL, Matthew Stafford and the Rams. And they're coming from L.A. They got to deal with sub-zero wind chills. They got a taste here on Wednesday of Chicago weather. The roads were a mess. It was icy, and it's super cold and windy. And the Bears are going to practice in that weather this week. And the Rams are not. And you wonder just how that will impact a team that's enjoyed that type of weather. They played in 72-degree conditions in Carolina on the road. So this is not something they've experienced for a while.
Well, what you're going to hear from Joe Mantegna is as he's sitting in L.A., it's 80 degrees there today. So it's a significant temperature drop, and I do think it's super beneficial that Ben practices these guys outdoors. You get familiar with your cleats. You get familiar with the clothes you want to wear, and then you become more acclimated to what the temperatures are going to be, and it's not a shock when those locker room doors open.
All right, let's go right to Joe. A wonderful conversation with a man who has over 100 film credits. Certainly The Godfather Part 3 is Zoe Zaza, Bugsy, Liberty Heights, Searching for Bobby Fischer, award-winning TV movies like The Rat Pack, The Last Don, 5 decades of excellence, and 15 years. How ironic, as long as the Bears had a playoff drought, now that I come to think of it, as Agent David Rossi on the CBS drama Criminal Minds since 2007. Mobster Fat Tony on The Simpsons, and, of course, the Bleacher Bums, his love of the Cubs, and the Bears SNL skits is Bill Swirsky. All that covered in our conversation with Hollywood legend and Chicago product, Joe Mantegna. Well, it's another Bright Lights in the Big City weekend along Chicago's beautiful lakefront. City of Big Shoulders meets Hollywood. We've got The Bears and the L.A. Rams. And we're bringing some Hollywood to Bears, etc. with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak, Chicago-born and bred actor, producer, director. He is Joe Mantegna, and I'll tell you, he's dripping Chicago. This is where it all began. Joe, thank you so much. This is an honor for us. Humbled to have you on. How you feeling about everything? And arrow pointing up right now for your Bears and your Cubs. Your Cubs with Bregman, adding Bregman to the mix.
Whoa! I know this is like a flashback to I can't even know what since when. You had both teams kind of giving us some excitement. But back in what was 1991.
Yeah.
They created that first The Bears skit for me when I hosted Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, it's 35 years ago this week, January 12th.
Yes, exactly. And so the fact that having done it at that time and then thinking now when we're going to close that deal, from that point on, 85 is great, but let's get a repeat here. So I'm very happy about where the Bears are going right now, and I'm glad that Da Pope is involved.
Right.
And
how was that presented to you, by the way? The whole script, the idea of that.
Well, what happens is. When you host Saturday Night Live, on the very first day, they have a big meeting of everybody, and all the writers are there, and they're all pitching ideas, and you have some input as being the host. And the first thing they do ask you, do you have any ideas for the monologue? And that's when I brought up the idea. I said, you know what? there's a lot of confusion that's happened between me and Joe Mantegna. Sometimes it turns out I was getting some of his mail. He was getting some of my mail. I'd get paged in restaurants for him, and so they did this whole. I hope anybody who sees the show, you can probably find it on whatever. My opening monologue is all based on the fact that I'm coming out as Joe Mantegna, and all of a sudden, this guy, of course, he's a plant in the audience, and his kid who was wearing the Montana shirt starts to get up and leave. I'm saying, well, why? Where you going? Where you going? Well, we just thought, yeah, I know what you thought. And it goes on from there. So that set the pace. And then when Robert Smigel, the guy who created the Bears skit, he's not from Chicago, but of course he just knew, he had some dear friends from it, of course, and people on his even members of the cast, Chicago-based people, said, I got this idea for this whole skit about, Bear fan, the Bears. And so as soon as he showed me a little bit of it, I said, oh my God, we've got to do this, not knowing we did it and we thought, okay, this is going to be fun, especially the people in Chicago are going to love it. I think I flew to Chicago a week later. They had billboards up that said, the Bears, the Bulls, the Cubs, the Sox. I mean, it created this whole, and then of course, George Wendt, my dear friend George, I think he hosted the show a couple of weeks later. And of course, they brought the skit back. And then, of course, they were doing it almost weekly. And they would always call me and say, would you fly in and do the skit? I said, I can't really fly in to New York every week to do the skit. But George was, he was off Cheers at the time. He was available. He and of course, every week he would say, my brother Bill had another heart attack, so he can't be here, meaning me. And then I did wound up doing one more that when Danny DeVito hosted. I happened to be in New York, and of course I joined a group that. But anyway, that whole the Bears culture is really certainly, of course, took off, and it's it's been a lot of fun, and of course now the Bears are showing us a little of a little love here. So let's see what happens.
Watching that skit yesterday and kind of being aware of it, being of age where Saturday Night Live was a regular, watch on Saturday. Was it the perfect match of the people and the city and Ditka and the team? If you didn't have all those combinations together, would you be able, because listen, Jeff and I have been doing the Bears games now for almost 30 years, and you still see it in the stands. You still see people dressed like you guys. The skit is never ending. So was it
right.
The perfect combination of everything you needed?
Oh yeah. Timing is everything. And what a lot of people didn't realize that Smigel actually wrote a movie script. I mean, there was a lot of attention to make a movie of it, as they did with some of their skits. With the Coneheads, they did it with, and they did it a couple of. So in other words, they felt we should make a feature film out of this, and it was all written. But what happened is with Chris Farley, that's when Chris Farley passed away, and he was pretty much the linchpin of the idea, and it kind of took the air out of it, when Chris passed away. So what we wound up doing is we did a couple of readings of the script in Chicago for charity. We did a couple of charity readings. I think it was at the old Ivanhoe Theater, where we staged it. We had I think Bruno Sands was a cast member of the show back then. He did what Chris would have done, but George Wendt was there, myself. We did the whole thing, and we even had Ditka there. It was so typical Mike Ditka. He was there. We did two of them back to back. We had like a dinner break in between. He did the first one, and then during the dinner break, he was out and something. And I think something happened, and he forgot that we had to be back at a certain time, so he didn't get back in time. So I think we had a pitcher for the White Sox who happened to come there. He kind of filled in just for a little cameo, a little bit of Ditka's lines would have been. But it was it just the whole kind of idea has really taken off and is sustained. And I'm just thrilled to be part of that legacy.
I don't know how many years ago now. Old Navy had a license with the NFL. I get a phone call. I'm in Vancouver on vacation, and Coach Ditka is going to be in it. It's going to be an offshoot of the Bears. Me, Tom Waddle, the former Chicago Bear, and George Wendt. They made us mustaches. They gave us the whole gear, the sunglasses, and George Wendt was hilarious. I learned so much about George. So we do this thing, and Ditka rolls in, and he's on the phone with his agent, and he's just screaming at him. Ditka said, I'm doing one take, and I'm out of here. They had two guys lift Ditka up on their shoulders, and he went off script. It was one take and out. I got a card game up north. I'm out of here. But it was one of the thrills of my career, honest to God.
And that's why he was the guy. That's why he's Big Mike, Iron Mike, absolutely.
You know, Joe, your Chicago background, and I think a lot about it because you went to Morton East, right?
Right.
And so as the Bears, that was our indoor facility through the 80s. We would drive down to Morton East and practice there. And I was thinking about that. And when you think about your Chicago background, like what are some of your earliest memories of the Bears or the Cubs or of the Chicago sports teams since you grew up here?
Well, God, I grew up, first of all, before we moved to Cicero, I grew up on the west side of the city. So, of course, it was right around the Garfield Park area.
Right.
And so if you grew up on the west side, in terms of who your allegiance to in terms of baseball back then was jump ball. My best friend next door was a Sox fan. I was a Cub fan because, you're on the west side. If you're, south side, you're going to be a Sox fan. North side, you're going to be a Cub fan. West side, who's this? It's where your dad or mom or whoever the big fan is takes you. So there was that, but it was such an ingrained part of it. And, of course, I'm old enough to remember the Cardinals were playing at Comiskey Park. The Cubs were playing at Wrigley. So we had these four teams, the White Sox, the Cubs, the Bears, the Cardinals. It was so ingrained in us, the Chicago sports thing, but all we needed, what we lacked was that final satisfaction though of, we're all here. Let's get some of those. It's like, to give you an example, Lee Mazzilli is one of my dear friends who, used to play for the Mets and the Yankees. And every Christmas, Mazzilli would send me a Christmas card. And it was the Yankee Christmas card. And it would have all these little kind of, each ornament on the Christmas card was like this little metal disc listing the Yankee, championship of that particular year. And he'd always sign the Christmas card, Joe, have a great Christmas. Yet again, another card you won't be getting from the Cubs. And it wasn't until, of course, when they closed the deal that I got that satisfaction. Okay, now we did it. And of course, when the Sox did it, some years earlier. It's sports in Chicago is such a big deal. And I think maybe the weather has something to do with it, and the fact that we only have like about 2.5 months of great weather in that city, so we try to make the most of it. And so the winter is the Bears, and we got the Bulls, and we got the Cubs and the Sox and the Blackhawks, and it's part of our culture. And it was part of certainly mine growing up. It still is.
So I grew up in Joliet, Illinois. Football was my hook. It was the means to an end and an opportunity. When you think of where you have gone and where your career has gone, do you remember what hooked you into that life, or what was your attraction? Why are you sitting here so famous of all your accomplishments?
Well, I feel very blessed. And I think it was just, it was the luck of the draw. In fact, there's nothing that should have pointed me to be an actor than just likely somebody would have said, I would have been an astronaut and walked on the moon or something. It was so far out of my zone of what I hadn't even seen a play when I was like a teenager. But what had happened is I was infatuated with the movie West Side Story back this was in the mid 60s. And I just thought, oh my God, this is like urban, they're singing and dancing. It's this urban landscape, which I was living in, this in the west side of Chicago. So I loved the movie so much. I saw it 3-4 times back in those days, you just sat in your seat and stayed for the next show. Nobody kick you out. It was great. So all of a sudden, I walk to the Morton East High School one day, and I see signs up saying auditions, West Side Story. And I go, what are they talking about? It's a movie. I didn't even know it was a play, had been a play. So to cut to the chase, I thought, maybe I can, could maybe play one of the little guys in the play. I could just do it. Anyway, I go in, I get up the nerve to audition. I do it. I didn't get cast. That's a whole other story because I was in my parents changed my birth certificate to start me in school a year earlier when I was a kid because my mother needed to go back to work at Sears Roebuck. So I was always the youngest kid in my class, the smallest kid, because I shouldn't have been in that year of class. They should have kept me home for another year. So anyway, I didn't get cast in the play, but the experience of trying out and getting up on a stage and singing the song and getting a smattering of applause, I went, wow, that's the first time anybody ever clapped for anything I did in my life. I think I want to give this another shot. And to tell you the truth, I haven't looked back from that day. From that day on, I got involved in the drama department, started doing plays at the high school, junior college, went to Morton Junior College a couple of years, went to the Goodman School of Drama, which was then now part of DePaul University. And that's it. And it takes me to today. And I even tell young people, I say, I got to tell you this. It's been I feel very blessed. I've had a wonderful career. Obviously, I'm still doing it. But my enjoyment level right now is no different what I do than what I did when I did that audition for West Side Story and everything I did in high school and beyond. So in other words, and I think that in terms of sports that way, I think if you ask probably even guys like yourself, 85 Bears or the Bears today, isn't this the greatest moment in time of you as a player? And I would think a lot of them might say, yeah, it's great, but it's just as great when I did it, when I played, pee-wee football or whatever it may be, or when I did it as a kid. It's the enjoyment factor is kind of the same. And if you can say that, then you've had a successful, blessed kind of, life in terms of what you do for a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's it. I love what I do, but I don't love it any more than I did when I did it back then.
Well, you could see the game-winning Bears on Saturday night and just see Tom and I, because they put a GoPro in the booth, and so they capture our reaction to it all. Just the raw enthusiasm of being a little kid.
Great.
We're both in our, I'm 63, Tommy's 64, and you feel like a little kid, and I looked out of the corner of my eye, the two games the Bears beat the Packers here, Week 16 and this game, and I see Tom's jaw dropped and his eyes wide because he's a very serious guy, all right? This is Bears-Packers is all business. And I've seen him in a bad state of mind, and I'm thinking, that's a 10-year-old Tom Thayer right there. I mean, high-fiving, jumping, and I took and the crowd, Joe, these Chicagoans that dominated the building, strangers hugging and dancing, high-fiving, and to your point about this city as a sports town, that's ingrained in you.
Well, here in Burbank, California, for 16 years, my wife had a restaurant called Taste Chicago, and it was all Chicago-themed food: the deep dish, the Polish, the hot Italian beefs, all of that. And during football season, every Sunday, all the Bear fans would show up. And guys would be some guys dressed as Ditka, the whole thing. When they play the Packers, that'd be the grater over the cheese, and all of that stuff. So, for 16 years, we had that even going on in terms of our restaurant. And then for the last quite a few years now, I've been involved producing and being part of a show called Hollywood and Ivy, which is a thing about the Cubs. My dear friend Brigham Avery, created, and we've been doing that. But now we're thinking we got into works, hopefully to do a thing called Hollywood and Hallis. So it would be like that same kind of a thing, bring in celebrities, Bear celebrities, like from all over the world, and let them interview them. You know what I mean? So Hollywood and Hallis, and they're just so many great. We had such great people who were Cub fans that for the Hollywood and Ivy version, so to do Hollywood and Hallis would be like that'd be, well, first of all, I'd get you both on. You'd both be participants at some point. But anyway, it's being a Bear. Today's a good day to be a Bears fan, and I'm living in Los Angeles, so you got to understand. I'm going to be hearing a lot of noise around me, but that's okay. We got a lot of Chicagoans here.
At your wife's restaurant, did they know what Jardinere is?
Of course they found out if they didn't know. Yeah, we did with the hot jardinera, you know what I mean? It was wonderful. It was, yeah. In fact, you'd walk out of that restaurant. I'd walk out of that restaurant. I'd find myself talking like this, and
You
guys
could easily
over there.
get back into it, right?
Oh, actually, I used to say that if Dennis Farina and Dennis Franz and myself all stood it together, because we used to there was a billboard in Chicago for a long time from Bigsby and Carruthers, the old clothes store.
Yep.
There was a billboard of the three of us that they had on the Kennedy Expressway. And I used to think when the three of us would ever get together, here and even in Los Angeles, an image of the Wrigley building might appear, or Wrigley Field, because there was just too much Chicago, three guys from Chicago, together like that,
I got to become good friends with Dennis Farina, and I'm really good friends with Tom Dreesen. And so when I think about the different career paths that all you guys have taken from down in Indiana, from Farina used to being a Chicago cop, and your success story, it's just amazing that your personalities are a huge part of your success, and your personalities have a big attachment to Chicago and the people you grow up with, and just all of your background, how it fits into all of your careers.
Oh, without question. Yeah, there's this whole. Yeah, I mean, it's that Chicago. And what's funny is, especially in my business, it wasn't always like that. In other words, Chicago was kind of like, there's a few people that came out of Chicago in the old days, but still, in show business, you pretty much. It was dominated by New York, Broadway, and all that, and then California, Hollywood, the film industry. And if you did theater and stuff in Chicago, it was like we were kind of like, in a way, it was good because nobody was really paying a lot of attention. So we were doing it because we loved it, and we were doing it for ourselves and for the people in Chicago in that area. And it wasn't until a little bit later things started to come out, like when the play Grease kind of took off, and like that, and then groups like the Steppenwolf and whatever it may be. And all of a sudden, and more Chicagoans that came out, and Belushi with Saturday Night Live, and whatever it may be, little by little, it gained some degree of respect of it's not just a baseball and football town and a hockey town and a basketball town, but there's this whole element of Second City, of course. It kind of came into its own, which has been great from as it should be.
So yeah, you mentioned Ashton Kutcher is doing a lot of interviews right now. He's dripping Bears fan. Jeremy Piven, of course.
Right.
Vince Vaughn was at the game. Many other entertainers, and that's when things are popping, right? All the stars come out.
Yeah, but it's going to be something this weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
So Tom and I, we were. What was that? Was that the Giants game? Bill Murray was on the Bears sideline many years ago. Have you done much with Bill Murray on the silver screen or TV or plays or anything?
Well, I know him well. I know the whole family pretty well. So I worked with his brother. One of his brothers there's a million of them. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's that. So we were supposed to do a movie together, and I remember the timing didn't work out. So, but we all, we're all bonded with that thing. We all have that thing when if we run into each other, or see each other. I mean, there's that kind of connection.
Bill Murray got mad at me once. I was doing sidelines at halftime, Eastern Conference Finals, I think, at Madison Square Garden, Bulls and Knicks. And it was set up. I was going to interview him at courtside at halftime for just a couple questions. So the announcer at the time to send it down to me was taking too long. So he's getting fidgety. And not happy.
Yeah.
And Patrick Ewing went down with an injury. So finally they sent it to me. All right, here with Bill Murray. Bill, hey, real quick, did you see what happened there with Ewing? He goes, what am I, a doctor? And I'm like, okay, he's frosting me over. And then I say, hey, Bill, what's with the Knicks jersey? I thought you're Chicago. He goes, what are you wearing? And then he slowly rolls up his Knicks jersey. There's a Bulls jersey underneath.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, I had to find something. I am dying here. And I said something about his next picture, and that helps, and that was it.
Yeah.
But that was my interaction with Bill the first time.
Well, they're all like that. I mean, that family has a lot of that going on. That's great. Absolutely.
Jeff, one more question. I know we don't get to keep you, Joe. Joe, so when you talk about Sunday night, Sunday afternoon in LA, it's going to be 3:30 or something. Chicago Bears are kicking off. What is afternoon of watching Chicago Bear football for you at this stage?
Well, luckily, my youngest daughter is engaged to a guy who played, serious college football. So thank God he's got, I have two daughters. And so here I've now got this my future son-in-law who's this huge football fan. So this has been a great year because he shows up, like for every weekend for the game. So of course he's and what's interesting, he's from the Bay Area, so he's a big 49ers fan. So we're kind of wondering, is this going to happen? Are we going to have to deal with that at some point? I hope we do in a way.
Right.
But he'll be over. They'll all be over. I'm going to be hoping that the temperature does kind of go into the teens, because then that's Chicago football.
Right.
Let's see how these Ram guys can handle that. None of this playing out here. I'm in LA right now. It's going to be 80 degrees today, and it's like, okay, it's great. I love that. But when Sunday comes, I'd like to see it be, let's see some Bears weather, some Bears football, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Joe, you've done a ton in your career. What's the best role you've ever played that you feel most proud of?
It's hard to do. It's hard to point to one. I mean, I will say my dear friend David Mamet, who Chicago writer, wrote the play Glenn Ross. And in my career, I've been banging around for about 15 years when he called me up and said, "Hey, Joe, I got this new play about this real estate thing in Chicago. You want to do it?" I wound up doing it. We go to Broadway. The show wins a Pulitzer Prize. I win the Tony Award. Obviously, that role, doing that, changed my life. I remember being interviewed after I won the Tony Award that year. They said, "What's it like to win the Tony?" I said, "Well, it's like winning the lottery, but I've been buying tickets for about 15 years now." So I got to be back. So it's the same thing. I know, like in a way, like an athlete, you work your way up. You play little league, pony league. Let's say if you're in baseball, you work your way up, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're in the minors, and then bang! All of a sudden, something happens, and you're in the bigs. And it's like, so in some ways, you're like excited and amazed. And then the other thing you're saying, but boy, I did put in some time, and maybe it paid off. You know what I mean? So it's that, that role, of course, will have that significance for me. But look, I love what I do. I love what I do now. I've been at Criminal Minds now 15 years. I'm the oldest guy in the FBI. So, God willing, we're waiting to hear to pick up for our 20th season. So anyway.
Do you like doing animated?
Oh, I've been. You see that? Fat
Yes.
Tony. My assistant
Fat
gave me
Tony.
that license plate. I've been doing Fat Tony on The Simpsons for, I believe now, 33 years.
Right.
That's my longest running role. People say, "Oh wow, how long you been on Criminal Minds?" A long time. I said, "Criminal Minds." I said, "I've been Fat Tony twice that long." And that started as a one-shot deal. I thought I went in. Because the movie Godfather 3 had just opened, and it made sense. They're going to have me do the gangster guy in The Simpsons because I'm playing Joey Zaza, but as it turned out, they liked the character, and I used my dear Uncle Willie's voice because I didn't want the character to sound like me, because I thought, I don't want this cartoon to sound like the same guy I did in Godfather. So I came up with this voice like this. And that's how my Uncle Willie used to talk. And little did I know I'd be doing it for the next 30 years. So it's my homage to my dear Uncle Willie, who was almost like a second dad to me.
It's all in the family, right, Joe? All in
Absolutely.
Chicago. This was fascinating. Thank you so much. We could talk to you a long time, but you are all Chicago out there in L.A. Congrats on a great career. Keep on rolling, and keep supporting those Cubs and Bears. Or I should say,
the Cubs.
Yeah, there you go. The Bears, the Cubs.
The Bears, the Cubs, the Sox, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, all of them. Them are my teams.
Yeah.
So this weekend, it's the Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears. That's exactly right. Joe Mantegna, thank you so much.
It's an honor.
Love you guys. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, that was wonderful. Goodman School of Drama, now the DePaul University Theater School. He lived in an apartment above the bar of the River Shannon. And they had a Hollywood Walk of Fame in April of 2011 with him. and that's a appreciation for a job well done and a career best lived. But I'm sure you were at River Shannon back in the day.
Oh,
right?
too many times.
Too many
times to talk about.
Good times. But so ironic that January 12th, 1991 was the start of Bill Swirsky's Superfans, first aired on Saturday Night Live. And he was hosting the WCBM. You wonder, pulling everything. It was WCBM, Bill Swirsky reporting. Great stuff. Great stuff, Tom. Did you enjoy that interview as much as I did?
Oh, it was a thrill of a lifetime. And so I made some calls of people that I know that are mutual friends with Joe. And I said, listen, is there anything you got to stay away from or anything you want to talk? You go, look, man, this is one of the nicest guys that you'll ever get a chance to interview, meet. And it surpassed everything that I thought. And it was such an honor to sit there and talk to him for 25 minutes. And like you said, we could have gone for another 2 hours and never asked the same question twice. So I think it's a big thrill for the people to listen to, but go back, do yourself a favor. If you're a youngster, go back into your social media and look at the Superfans, a skit from Saturday Night Live, because it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, what was hilarious in that commercial that Waddle and I shot with George went, it was a 2-day affair, and so they pick us up. I mean, this is as close to Hollywood as I'll ever get, Tom. They pick us up in a limo to come to a facility downtown by the river, and they made mustaches for us. I mean, they put us in a clothing fitting, and then they gave us a trailer. Then they sent us home, picked us up the next day in a limo, gave us the trailer, which was a stocked refrigerator, and I was like, amazed. And so we go in there, and it's probably 150 people working on this 30-second commercial, and there's a lot of downtime. And George went at lunch. They had this massive buffet of food, and George went, me, Tom Waddle, and some others, and he's just telling stories of how he got kicked out of Notre Dame, and just great stuff, going into character. And we were able to ask him about Cheers, and then Ditka rolls in. He's hot. He's hot. Hey, as I said in there, I'm gonna do it one time. That's it. And he warned the two guys that were dressed in football jerseys and lifted him. He goes, "You drop me, we're gonna have a problem. Don't drop me." And they take him across, and he ad-libbed his own lines and walked out. And all we had to say was, "Da babies, da Ditka, da Bears." That's it.
Well,
and then you wouldn't have recognized Tom and I for anything. But that thing, you could still catch it on YouTube. It's the
and you still can't grow a mustache.
No. It wouldn't look very good at all. This podcast is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, let's redirect and focus on the game. Let's listen in to Caleb Williams at the podium on Wednesday.
Back and watched the 4th and 8 throw to Rome.
Yep.
What was it like just kind of watching it back on tape for you?
Yeah, it was just a good moment. And end up giving Rome the right football to be able to allow him to make the adjustment. But that's kind of
it.
Yeah, it's it.
What have you thought of the social media, like some of the memes and the Jordan logo stuff?
Yeah. I've actually I've had a couple passes like that going left. Where I've ended up being in the air in that way a few times in college and things like that, and in high school, and so it's kind of I've been kind of used to it.
I think you've talked in the past about watching Stafford and some of the things he does. What is it in particular that you tried to pattern your game after? And have you met him? Do you know him?
Haven't met obviously other than last time we played. He's at the top of the game right now, and at his age and things like that, and so that's something you can learn from, and then also just the how he plays the game. You drop back, and he has what everybody calls snake eyes, and things like that, and just knowing defenses, knowing the offense, and being able to move people where you want to move them, is something he's been able to do very well, and then trusting and believing in his guys to be in the right position at the right time. And so, learning from that is big.
What are snake eyes?
It's when you're looking at a defender, you'll move him, you'll look here, and then throw it back right behind his eyes or right behind his head. Like I said, kind of moving the defender out the way without actually having anybody near or around him.
He's very different than you are. He's not going to be doing jump man throws.
Yeah.
But what about his footwork applies to your footwork?
Yeah, his feet are always under him. He can make any throw at any time. Guys in his face, O-lineman maybe getting pushed back, not looking, all these different things, and it comes down to his feet. He ties the routes with his receivers, the timing, all of that with his feet, and obviously has a cannon. And so, being able to watch him over the years and also last year to this year, in person is it's gonna be fun and enjoyable.
Caleb, DeAndre was talking about how he's noticed
Swift.
Yes, how your preparation has kind of taken to a new level this year. I mean, do you agree with that? And also, like, the fact when you feel that prepared, how much does it free you for moments late in the game?
It definitely frees me. The confidence and belief going into games from my preparation and the growth from my preparation. And it's being a year in it. It's having been. It's having these other coaches and things like that have helped. And so being able to have the belief and faith in myself from my preparation going into games definitely helps, especially late in games, especially leaning back on what you study, leaning back on your training and all those small things. And so I'm going to keep finding better ways to prepare. Be more efficient in my preparing, so I can gain more knowledge to be able to help the team to win.
Caleb, it feels like you love pressure. I mean,
Yeah.
What do you love about pressure and gotta have it moments?
I feel that. I think I've said it multiple times. I feel calm in those moments. I feel, my conditioning is the best in those moments. I feel. That's really it. I mean, I feel that I'm the best in those moments because of what I've prepared, to be in those moments and things like that. So, for myself, it's just next play. And then when you have to go make a play, it's life or death in those moments.
Caleb, how much satisfaction have you gotten over maybe these last handful of games with some of the stuff that you've done in the fourth quarter? Maybe doubters, like that you are the guy that people thought you were coming out of USC?
Yeah, that's never been a worry of mine, is proving a doubter's wrong or anything like that. It's a little extra motivation. In that sense, but it's not for me to prove them wrong. I know who I am. Not everything happens within 365 days or 1 year, my first year, or even my second year, or third year, whatever the case may be. So it's my mindset to be able to keep growing. It's my mindset to be able to keep that mindset of knowing who I am. Keep that mindset of I feel that I'm the best when I'm on the field. Keeping the mindset of I'm the best when I got the other 10 guys around me that are fighting for me. I'm the best when I got, the best coach in the world. And so being able to, have that mindset, being able to have that mentality going into the years or the weeks or the months and things like that, that's kind of how I go about it.
You look like you got a little emotional when you gave him the game ball and you said about how much he's meant to your career. What was going through your mind in that moment?
Yeah, wasn't trying to get emotional or anything. Just trying to have that moment with our coach, just because it's been a while since the Bears have been in the playoffs. It's been a while since the Bears have won in the playoffs. It's been a while, and it was versus our divisional rivalry and all of that. And so it was a good moment and happy for him as a coach and our coach, but happy for us also. So it was to share that moment. You're all good.
Sorry. Did you sense the magnitude of the moment? And do you still, even as you turn the page to the next opponent?
No, I've been in some big games and things like that, and so it's in the moment you enjoy it. You treat it like another game. You treat it like a regular game, and at some point it hit me. At some point I'll look back. At some point, hopefully 10, 15 years down the line, I can look back and kick my feet up and laugh and joke about some of the things that went on. But when you're in the moment, when you're in it, you just keep trying to go on to get to the next point, the next goal until the goals are kind of ran out.
You seem to enjoy the crowd after the game, looking around and seeing people just going bananas.
Yeah.
What does that do for your appetite to keep this thing going?
Yeah, I've said many times now is, I want the Bears fans to be proud to be, supporting us. I want them to come to games away, home, and cheer like no other, like it's our last one. And so, being able to have that moment, those are the moments that you miss and things like that when you're done. And so I try to be grateful for it. I try to take it all in the moment. And so that's what I do in those moments. The best moments are those moments when you can look up in the stands and they're rowdy, they're loving the moment, and then you go to the locker room and your brothers, your family is in there and they're all smiling and laughing and joking. So those are the moments that you live for as a player. Those moments that you live for as a competitor, and I would say as a leader also.
Caleb, Sean McVay said that you're going to be a nightmare to defend. Is there anything that you admire about his offenses or that you've noticed about his offenses?
Yeah, it's a top offense in the league. He has a top quarterback in the league, and when you got those two things, you can run a pretty well-oiled machine over there, and I think that's what he's done for the past every years. And so it's going to be fun to be able to go compete against them. And that team over there, they got offense, defense, and special teams. They got a bunch of really great players over there, and whether it's Hall of Fame players, whether it's just great players in the league, and also some young talent over there. It's going to be fun.
Speaking of conditioning, you mentioned how, like you did in the off season, you've hit 20 miles an hour on 5 runs this year. Like, what speed training do you do?
I do a bunch of stop and decel and acceleration. I do a bunch of longer distance kind of runs, more sprint like, not like I'm running 300 meters. Just preparing for what it's like to be able to play in a football game, and and then working on my speed and pushing myself to be able, when these moments come up and I need to get away from somebody, I can.
Do you feel like you've been more demanding of your teammates, and how much has success and the success that you guys have had this season kind of breed and raise the level of expectation?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say I've gained more confidence in the offense and knowing exactly what and where and all these different things, and then just the belief and trust and that I have in them to be able to do their job is paramount for us. And so sometimes you have to hold everybody accountable, and I get held accountable every day, and I want to be able to win these games and be in these big moments, and so we have to be accountable to each other, and that's one of the most important things in these big games, these playoff games, and things like that. It's the fundamentals, the details that win you games.
Tom, as you heard there, I thought it was fascinating that they asked him about the 4th and 8 throw to Roma Dunze, which is being characterized as one of, if not the greatest throw in Bears history. People are going, all the analysts are breaking down that play because of the difficulty factor of rolling to your left, being chased down, you're going to get hit by the Packer, and he leaves his feet and throws a perfect pass. A runner's ball between 4 defenders that Roma Dunze has to run to catch. So it's an equally difficult catch that Caleb made look easy, and he sloughed it off like no big thing. It's like, yeah, I did that in high school. I did it in college. I can throw to my left. I practiced throwing to my right and my left. And to him, it was nothing. Is that a sign to you that he's dialed in on the Rams and doesn't care to talk about the big picture?
100%. Listen, in 15 years, 20 years, you'll be able to ask him that question. He'll be able to describe that play specifically, perfectly. When you're talking about something that happened last weekend, but you're getting ready for next weekend and it's already Wednesday, you have, excuse me, you have to avoid that topic. And it's not out of his mind, but it's not something that you want to sit there and talk about when you're getting ready for the Rams.
Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. Ben Johnson also spoke, and Caleb, about the excellence of Matthew Stafford. There's a great deal of respect for this quarterback. Caleb points to the fact he's always got his legs under him, perfect base to throw the football at also various angles and under pressure. He's not one to eject the pocket, though. He'll work it until he makes his connection, and he's got a lot of weapons to do it. And Ben had worked with him for a couple years as an offensive quality control offense assistant in Detroit and then a tight ends coach. So he got a firsthand look at what this man is all about.
Yeah, but the thing about Matthew Stafford, the entire preseason he was fighting a back injury. He is getting up there in age. Foundationally, he has to be in a perfect throwing position to get the strength on the football that you need to, whether it's in perfect conditions or conditions that it could be this weekend. Caleb's a young man. He's got a great lower body strength. He's got great shoulder and arm strength. He doesn't have to be in the perfect throwing position in order to get the ball off accurately. It's just two guys that are on opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're both good quarterbacks from what they have.
We touched on this. How do you defend a player like Puka Nacua?
You just can't give him freedom. And it's not just Puka Nacua. It's what are you going to do to the quarterback? If you said, how do you defend Puka Nacua and you're not going to hassle Matthew Stafford, it's almost impossible. But if you're going to have coverage area near Puka Nacua, maybe it's a 6'5" Nashawn Wright or a distracting Jalen Johnson, guys like that, and then you're interfering with the quarterback's throwing position and foundation, then that's when you're going to have the best opportunity to limit his success. You're not going to take it completely away, but it's a two-man job. This is not one or the other. It's about, hassling both of them.
He reminds me very much of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Their toughness, they can run any of the positions, X, slot, flanker, all of it they can do, and they run very precise routes, and they are physical at the catch point and very difficult to bring down. So everything's on the table for defending Puka Nacua. Also, you've got a former Green Bay Packer is Devontae Adams, who is coming off an injury, so maybe not quite where he was earlier in the season, but that's a guy that can stretch it, and he's a definite red zone possibility. End zone throws. And then you got the running game. Kyron Williams, underrated back, in my opinion. That guy is and then Blake Corum. So it's a 1-2 punch.
Well, one thing about Puka, he's 6'2", 215, and Devontae Adams is a lengthier guy than Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think you're talking about kind of a escapability of Amon-Ra St. Brown in traffic catches by Puka Nacua. But they both complement their quarterback. They both have great hands. They both have really catchable ability when there's people inside their radius. But yeah, when you talk about what those two receivers mean to the success of their offense, I think they're both equally as important.
And they play 4 tight ends, and they're very, very appreciated tight ends. They all do a little something different. Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. A word on the Rams defense. I went back and watched their game against Detroit many weeks ago just to see against a offense that has some similarities to the Bears, obviously, with Ben Johnson's impact on the Lions over the years. And they are a violent bunch up front. Jared Verse is a physical dude wearing number 8, and number 0, Byron Young, is very fast. Drops him. They can cover. They can cover if you're asking to. They cover tight ends. They can cover receivers. And they are very vicious at the line of scrimmage. Kobe Turner on the inside. Braden Fisk on the inside. So those 4 do a heck of a job, and they play a lot of snaps together. They're not off the field that much.
Yeah, but what concerns me is the outside portion of the Rams defense is really good. Great athletes, good pass rushers, good hustle. They can win a lot of one-on-one battles. My concern is the interior four. And so I'm talking about the two defensive tackles and how they complement the linebackers behind them, because they play a real fast, quick twitch game where these two defensive tackles, they can line up in one position and totally attack another position at the snap of the ball. That means the offensive linemen have to have concentration on the snap count and their footwork. And then how the linebackers play off the two defensive tackles in front of them. It's almost like a double-edged sword that you have to get ready for, and that's the outside athletes and then get ready for the interior four.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. It's always critical when you're analyzing statistics, because when the season ends, okay, this is it. The Bears were such and such ranked defense. The Rams were such and such ranked offense. And so looking at how they defended the run, for example, the Rams, they were good. But over the last 8 or 9 games, there was some vulnerability there. The yards per carry got up to the 4.6, 4.7 range. So, you have to watch that and see, okay, what's of late? And that's where my attention goes. Do you feel, and the Bears, in the same vein, they were so great all season long, but even Ben at the podium on Wednesday suggested, yes, the last 3 games, not where he'd like it to be. He expected it to be better here as the season went on at the end of the year. Do you see the Bears' run game importantly reigniting in this game, in these conditions against the Rams, and how important it'll be to set up the pass?
Well, if you want to go back and watch a game that can factor into this week's, go back and watch the Black Friday game against the Philadelphia Eagles. When you're talking about a couple of premier rotationable defensive tackles complemented by good linebackers and led by a good defensive coordinator, the Bears manhandled that defense from the very first series all throughout the game. And I do believe as many complimentary things as I said about the interior four, just like the Eagles, you don't let the outside guys factor in on stopping the run. You got to win the point of attack. And this is what I like about the Bears' opportunity this week, is this is a tiered defense. The linebackers play off the defensive line. Now, when you have these combination blocks, there's always going to be a guy on the inside that's going to have a one-on-one assignment that's going to be difficult. But if you can overwhelm the double team combination block up to that second level, then you're talking about that continuous 4 yards, 4.5 yards, maybe 5 yards per rush. So I think that there is some, an analogy you can make against the game planning from a team you've already played to a way you want to play these guys.
And Theo Benedette expected to be the left tackle with Ozzie Trapillo now gone for the season. And when he was starting his 7 games, the Bears were number 1 running the football as a unit. So in those 7 games, he did a great job run blocking. He's feisty. He's athletic. He can get out there. Heck, he was running routes, so he's got that athleticism. That's going to be important.
And, he's going to be able to hear the snap count. And I think that's really super important for Theo Benedette, because he's got good length. He's got good bendability. If he can go out there and initially get a stalemate or win the game of leverage, then he's going to be way more competitive at that position. I have no worries about Theo Benedette. Yeah, Ozzie Trapillo, he came in and answered the bell and played at a high level. But I really like the work ethic and the confidence that they have in Theo Benedette to take that position on Sunday afternoon.
Okay, so you're deep in the playoffs now. You're in the final 8, and, Braxton Jones has been injured the entire year for the most part, started the first couple weeks. Now he's available once again. Jordan McFadden, another offensive lineman, has been on the active roster now for a while. It underscores this notion that, and teams have suffered significantly if they don't put enough in the pipeline, you have to have as many big men on your roster, both offense and defensive line, as you can stomach on the salary cap or what you need, because around the practice squad, because you never know. You just never know. You think you're good until you're not in terms of bodies.
Yeah, this week specifically, when we talk about, TJ Edwards' first game, the second game, he was so much better than his first game. Kyler Gordon, I expect him to be better. I don't have that time with Braxton Jones because it's win and go on or lose and go home. But this week in practice, I'm going to get Braxton Jones as many possible reps as I can get him. I'm not going to worry about fatiguing him because hopefully he doesn't have to play. If he does have to play, I want him to be more ready. And so, Braxton, get your big boy pants on because you're going to practice like you're starting.
Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. All right, great show. Super excited about Sunday, and I'm glad it's a 5:30 kickoff. I don't know. I just think it's going to be kind of a replica moment from a Saturday night in Chicago. This time it's going to be a early evening Sunday night game. The fans will have all day to get ready for this game. I think the environment's going to be special once again, Tom.
Right. No opponent's fans are driving to this game. This is either you got to commit to a flight or else. But I do have some friends from LA, they're Chicago fans, that are actually taking the train from LA to Chicago to get here for the game.
How many days?
3 days.
Wow. Just because they
Yes.
want to take a look at the Western United States and the mountains and then roll into Chicago and fly home?
I don't know that.
Yeah, I
I
would
just
assume.
know how they're getting here.
Very interesting. Are they staying with you, Tom? Are you going to entertain them? Okay.
Nope. I got no time for that.
It's football season, Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this. This podcast is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller time, Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Thanks to our special guest, Hollywood legend and Chicago product, Joe Mantegna. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Please subscribe now in the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.